Here is something strange about real wealth. The people who actually have it are often the ones you would never suspect, while the people who look rich are frequently one missed paycheck away from disaster. We have been trained to recognize wealth by its symbols. The expensive car, the designer logo, the heavy watch, the table full of bottles at the club. But those are not the signs of wealth. Very often they are the signs of someone trying hard to look wealthy while quietly sinking into debt. Genuine rich people tend to do the exact opposite. They hide it on purpose, they blend in, and they would rather you underestimate them than admire them. So today we are breaking down 10 signs that someone is genuinely rich, even when, on the surface, they look completely broke. These are the quiet tells. The small habits and attitudes that almost always reveal real money hiding behind a very ordinary appearance. Quick note before we start. This is general observation about money psychology, not financial advice, so treat it as a lens, not a rulebook. And stay until sign number 7, because it is the one that fools almost everybody, including people who think they are great with money. Sign 1. They drive a car that looks at least 10 years past its prime, and they could not care less. There is no badge chasing here, no lease they secretly cannot afford. Just a paid-off machine that reliably gets them where they need to go. To the broke mind, a car is a costume. It is worn to impress strangers at red lights and neighbors in the driveway. To the wealthy mind, a car is simply a tool. It moves you from one place to another, and a paid-off tool beats an impressive payment every time. They know a brand-new luxury car can lose thousands of dollars the moment it rolls off the lot, and that lost value is money that could have been quietly working for them. So they let the status seekers win the parking lot, and they quietly win the bank account instead. When a genuinely rich person talks about their car, listen closely. They will mention the fuel economy and the reliability long before they ever mention the brand. Because to them, a car was never meant to be a personality. And that quiet indifference is the very first clue. So what about how they dress? Sign 2. Their clothes are plain, comfortable, and almost completely forgettable. No screaming logos, no labels turned outward, nothing on the fabric begging to be noticed by a passing stranger. The broke spender buys the brand so the world will assume there is money behind it. The label is doing the talking. The genuinely rich buyer pays for quality once, then wears that same quiet piece for 10 years without a second thought. You could stand right next to a millionaire in a coffee line and never feel a single thing. That invisibility is not laziness, it is a kind of armor. Flashy clothing invites questions, favors, and people who only want a piece of you. Plain clothing invites peace, and peace is something the rich protect fiercely. Their closet is small, intentional, and honestly a little boring. A few good neutral pieces, neatly kept, nothing wasted. But a boring closet is very often the sign of an exciting bank statement. Style fades, but freedom never goes out of fashion. Now listen to how they talk. Sign 3. They almost never talk about money, and they certainly never talk about their own. Ask what they do for a living and the answer stays vague, humble, and quick. They will happily let you assume they are just getting by. The broke loud talker announces every purchase like a press release. New phone, new trip, new gadget, all broadcast for applause. The quiet wealthy one treats their numbers like a private diary. The details stay behind a closed door, on purpose. They learned a hard lesson. The moment people smell money, the relationship quietly changes, and suddenly everyone has a favor to ask. So they keep the curtain closed and let people guess wrong about them. Real wealth simply does not need an audience to feel real. In fact, the loud need to prove it is usually a sign that it is not really there. Smoke, not fire. Watch who gently changes the subject when money comes up at dinner. That quiet redirect is often the loudest signal in the entire room. Now look at where they live. Sign 4. They live in a normal home on a normal street that is noticeably smaller than what they could actually afford. It is not the biggest house their money could buy. It is the smartest house their money could comfortably keep. The broke borrower stretches for the mansion to impress people he will mostly never meet. Then the giant bills, repairs, and stress move in with him. The wealthy owner deliberately buys below his means, and as a reward he sleeps soundly every single night. A right-sized home leaves real room in the budget for investing, for freedom, and for actually enjoying life instead of servicing a mortgage. Inside, the furniture is comfortable and practical, far from a showroom. They fix what breaks instead of replacing what is merely out of style. Their neighbors would be genuinely shocked to learn the size of their investment accounts, because nothing about the house is asking for that kind of attention. They understand a home should serve your life, not quietly swallow it whole. The mansion impresses the street, but the modest home builds the fortune. Speaking of quiet habits, watch what they eat. Sign 5. They cook at home far more often than they eat out, and they feel zero shame about it. It is not because they are cheap. It is because they refuse to leak money on autopilot for things that do not actually matter to them. The broke spender treats daily coffees, lunches, and deliveries as tiny harmless habits. A few dollars here, a few dollars there, who cares? The wealthy saver knows those tiny harmless habits quietly drain entire fortunes. $5 a day feels like nothing until it becomes thousands a year. And thousands a year, invested patiently for a decade, quietly becomes real, life-changing money. They have run that math when most people never bother. So they cook, they pack lunches, and they make it feel completely normal, never like a sacrifice. There is no embarrassment, only a quiet sense of control. They will happily grab a cheap, simple meal in public and never feel 1 ounce of self-consciousness about it. Because their self-worth was never tied to the price of a plate. Small disciplined choices, repeated daily, are the real recipe for wealth. And it shows up in their energy. Sign 6. They carry a strange, unshakable sense of calm, even when life clearly is not going to plan. Money problems make people tense, jumpy, and quick to anger. Constant low-level stress is one of the loudest signals of being broke. The genuinely rich tend to move slowly, speak softly, and rarely seem rushed. That calm is not just a personality, it is a financial cushion you can feel. When you have many months of expenses safely saved, small emergencies stop feeling like disasters. A flat tire becomes an annoyance, not a catastrophe. The broke mind lives one surprise away from the edge at all times, bracing for the next bill that could knock everything over. The wealthy mind built a wide, boring, beautiful safety net years ago, and now it simply rests on top of it. You can see it in how they handle bad news without flinching. They have already imagined the worst case and quietly prepared for it long ago. That preparation buys something no luxury item ever could. It buys peace of mind, and peace of mind has no price tag. But the next sign is the one that fools everybody. Sign 7, and this is the one that fools almost everybody, so pay very close attention here. Their money quietly works while they sleep, eat, and live an ordinary-looking day. To outsiders, it can look like they barely work at all. The broke earner trades hours directly for dollars. The moment they stop working, the money stops arriving, full stop. The wealthy owner builds things that keep paying long after the work is finished. Dividends, rent, interest, and ownership stakes drip income in the background. So when you see someone relaxed on a weekday afternoon, do not assume they are broke. The work likely happened years ago, in saving, building, and patient investing. They own assets, not just a paycheck that vanishes by the end of the month. And that single word, assets, is the real secret of this entire video. An asset is anything that puts money into your pocket while you rest. A business stake, an index fund, a rental, a royalty. A liability is the opposite. It quietly takes money out, even while you are doing absolutely nothing. So how do the rich actually use this difference? Here is the trap that fools everyone. The broke person spends their raises on liabilities that look like wealth. A nicer car with a bigger payment, a closet of clothes that lose value instantly, gadgets that are worth half as much by next year. Each of those purchases feels like a step up, but every one of them quietly pulls money out of their pocket, month after month. The genuinely rich do the opposite on purpose. When their income rises, they buy assets first and let those assets pay for the toys later. They ask one simple question about almost everything. Does this put money into my pocket, or does it take money out? That single question, asked over and over for years, quietly separates the genuinely wealthy from the people who only look wealthy. This is why someone in a plain shirt and an old car can be worth far more than the neighbor with the leased sports car and the giant house. Once you truly see assets versus liabilities, you can never unsee how the rich actually win. Now, what do they do with all the freedom this buys? Sign 8. They guard their time far more fiercely than they guard their money. You can always earn more money, but you can never buy back a single lost hour. The rich understand this in their bones. The broke mind will waste 3 hours driving across town to save a few dollars it would have earned back at work anyway. The wealthy mind happily spends a little money to protect large blocks of precious life. They pay to remove the tasks that drain their energy. This is not laziness. It is a clear-eyed understanding that their time is genuinely worth more than the small sums they are handing off. They say no to almost everything, so that they can say a full yes to the few things that truly matter to them. You will rarely catch them frantically busy, but you will often catch them quietly effective. Being busy impresses people, being free is the actual goal. Because the final purpose of money was always to buy back your own time. Anyone rich in money but careless with time has missed the entire point. And watch how they treat others. Sign 9. They are quietly, almost secretly generous, in a way you might never even notice. This is not the loud kind of giving that demands a photo, a plaque, and a public thank you. It is the kind where the help arrives but the name never does. They tip generously, they help often, and they almost never mention any of it afterward. The broke giver gives to be seen, and quietly keeps a mental scoreboard of every favor owed back to them. The genuinely wealthy giver gives because the act itself already feels complete. There is nothing left to prove and no debt being recorded. They will quietly cover a bill, open a door, or mentor someone who can never possibly repay them, and then pretend it was nothing. This generosity flows from a deep and unusual feeling of having enough. Scarcity makes people clutch, but real security lets people open their hands. So watch closely for who gives without flinching and never brings it up again. Quiet generosity is one of the surest fingerprints of real wealth. And here is the final sign. Sign 10. No matter how much they already have, they simply never stop learning. The broke mind often believes it already knows enough, and quietly stops trying to grow. The wealthy mind stays curious, humble, and a little obsessed with good questions. It treats every book, podcast, and mentor as a tiny investment in a sharper mind. They are not too proud to ask the basic question everyone else is afraid to ask. That willingness to look foolish is exactly how they stay ahead. They deliberately surround themselves with people who stretch their thinking, and they quietly walk away from rooms that shrink their ambition. Their knowledge compounds in the background, in exactly the same way their money does. Both grow slowly at first, then accelerate. And that sharper mind spots the opportunities that lazy, distracted eyes will always walk right past. They treat every mistake as tuition, not as a reason to quit. This humble hunger is a huge part of why the rich so often keep getting richer. So what do all 10 signs share? Now step back and notice the thread running through every single one of these signs. Not one of them is about looking rich. Every one of them is about being free, secure, and in control. The genuinely wealthy have unhooked their self-worth from the opinions of strangers. They are not performing for an audience that does not pay their bills. That single shift changes everything. The car, the clothes, the house, and the silence about money all flow from one quiet decision. They decided, long ago, that real wealth is measured in freedom and peace, not in the admiration of people at a stoplight. It is a quiet kind of confidence that does not need to announce itself, because it is not waiting for permission or applause. And once you understand that, the flashy stuff starts to look less like wealth and more like a costume worn over insecurity. Which brings us to the strange illusion that fools almost everyone, every single day. Here is the illusion in its simplest form. The person who looks rich and the person who is rich are often two completely different people. One spends money to appear wealthy. The other spent years quietly becoming wealthy and now has nothing to prove. Picture two men at the same traffic light. One sits in a leased luxury car he can barely afford, drowning in payments. The other sits in a paid-off, dented little car beside him, with a 7-figure portfolio he never mentions to anyone. From the outside, the world admires the wrong one. It claps for the costume and ignores the quiet fortune sitting right next to it. And that is exactly how the genuinely rich like it. Being underestimated is a feature for them, not a bug. Because the moment you stop needing to look rich, you free up all the money and energy it takes to actually become rich. So why are we, as a society, so easily fooled by all of this? The answer says a lot about us. We get fooled because we have been trained to read wealth from the outside in, by its surface. Advertising spent a century teaching us that the logo, the car, and the watch equal success and status. Then social media poured fuel on the fire, turning everyday life into a constant highlight reel of borrowed and rented luxury. So we instinctively assume the loud spender is winning and the quiet saver is falling behind. Usually, the opposite is true. A huge amount of visible luxury is funded by invisible debt. The shine you admire is often a chain you cannot see. Meanwhile, the real wealth sits silently in accounts, assets, and ownership, none of which photograph well or impress a crowd. Once you learn to look past the costume, you start seeing money where others see nothing, and seeing nothing where others see money. And that clearer vision is genuinely valuable, because it changes who you admire, who you trust, and who you try to become. Let me be honest about the limits here. Now let me be completely honest with you, because these signs are patterns, not guarantees. Not every person in an old car is secretly rich. Plenty of old cars just belong to people who are genuinely struggling, and that deserves respect, not assumptions. And not every well-dressed person is broke. Some people earn very well and simply enjoy nice things responsibly, fully within their means. These are tendencies that show up again and again, but real life is messy, and you can never truly know someone's finances from the outside. So please do not use this to judge people harshly, or to feel superior, or to make sweeping guesses about strangers. Use it instead as a mirror. Quietly ask which of these habits you could borrow to build your own freedom and calm. And remember, this is general money psychology, not financial advice. For real decisions, do your own research and talk to a qualified professional. Now let us bring it all together. So here are the 10 quiet signs of someone who is genuinely rich, all in one place. 1. They drive an older paid-off car. 2. They wear plain forgettable clothes that never chase a logo. 3. They almost never talk about money. 4. They live in a modest home that sits well below their means. 5. They cook at home and refuse to leak money on autopilot. 6. They carry an unshakable calm built on a hidden cushion. 7. And the big one, their money quietly works for them through assets instead of liabilities. 8. They guard their time more fiercely than their money. 9. They are quietly and secretly generous. 10. They never stop learning, treating every mistake as tuition and every book as an investment. And the thread through all 10, they unhooked their self-worth from appearances and chose freedom over the costume. So what do you do with this? If even 3 of these signs already sound like you, then quietly celebrate, because you are further along than you think. And if none of them sound like you yet, that is completely fine, because every one of these is a choice you can start making today. Start by spending a little less than you earn, and quietly turning that gap into assets that pay you back. Let go of the need to impress strangers. That single decision frees up more money and peace than almost anything else you can do. Stay patient through the slow, boring beginning, because that flat early stretch is the launch pad, not the failure. And keep learning, quietly and consistently, for the rest of your life, because the mind is the one asset that funds all the others. Do that for a few quiet years, and one day you will be the unassuming person nobody suspects. So let us leave you with the real takeaway. If you remember one thing from all of this, let it be this. Real wealth was never about looking rich for strangers. It was always about being free, calm, and quietly in control of your own life. The broke chase the appearance, and exhaust themselves keeping the costume on. The rich quietly build the reality and sleep soundly. So the next time you see an old car, plain clothes, and a modest home, do not be so quick to assume. You might just be looking at someone who quietly won the game everyone else is still pretending to play. And you can become that person too. It starts with one small step this week, not someday, this week. Open the account, automate the first deposit, cut one quiet bit of waste, and let time start working for you. If this changed how you see money, you know what to do. Keep building quietly, and I will see you in the next one.